Good morning. Welcome to your third digital assembly of Term 1. My name is Mr. Knowles, and over the next few minutes I'm going to be giving you some important information, updates and reminders that you'll need for the term ahead. During lockdown and school closure, I spent a lot of time in quite an empty school and it wasn't very enjoyable. We're about halfway through Term 1 at the moment, and it's really nice to see a full school, over 1,000 people moving around, and we're dead proud of how you've returned and settled in to life back at SBL school. We've got quite a simple mission at the moment. We want to make sure that you're as happy as possible and your teachers are happy with how you're doing in your lessons, and essentially everybody's happy and doing the best they can do. As I was driving home from school a few days ago, I was listening to the radio and there was an interview with the first deaf-blind person to graduate from Harvard Law School. And the interviewer asked the person a question. They said, "How do you know who you are when you're growing up if you can't see yourself, see anything you produce, or hear yourself?" And the lady gave a really interesting answer. She said, "A person is a mixture of all the decisions that they make." And that stuck with me, and that's a key theme for this assembly, that who you are, or the day you have, is based on a mixture of all the decisions that you make. To show you what I mean by that, let's compare two different days of decisions. Person 1 got up late. They forgot to pack their bag, they haven't done their homework, and they skipped breakfast. They choose to have a can of Coke on the way to school, they wait for a friend who's running late, so they don't get to school until about 8:50 and they're already late and they've missed the start of tutor. On the other hand, somebody else may have chosen to pack their bag and check it the night before. They decide to have cereal and water for breakfast, and they get to school at about 8:30, so they've got time to chat with friends and get to tutor. Now, if they continue to make similar choices all the way through the day, what they do in lessons, what they do at break time, and how they act at lunch, then they're going to have very different days. And if you extrapolate that over the week, over the month, over the term, and over the years, they're going to have very different experiences of life at SBL. To make the best and most successful decisions, it's absolutely crucial that you understand the expectations and rules. So over the next couple of slides, I'm going to try and explain these as clearly as possible. When moving around the school, we need you to wash your hands frequently and use hand sanitizers as you move in and out of lessons. We need you to give each other some space, avoid physical contact, and make sure you stay a full 2 meters away from any member of staff. If you're moving down the corridor, you need to keep on the left-hand side and make sure you're single file. You definitely need to stay in your zone. If you intentionally leave your zone when going to another year group's bubble, that will be reported as a serious incident. If your timetable sends you outside of your zone, for example to PE or technology, you must meet your next teacher at your meeting point. Uniform. Once you get home from school, you've got to change out of your uniform straight away and into your normal clothes. Your uniform will be checked every morning by your tutor. If you're missing an item or there's something wrong with it, you'll get your first warning and be given a blue uniform pass. If that's the same for a second day, you'll be given your second warning and sent to the isolation room. However, if there is a genuine or legitimate issue with your uniform, bring a note from home and your year team will give you an extended uniform pass. Uniform on PE days is slightly different. This will be checked with by your PE teacher during your PE lesson. It will follow the same warning process as your standard uniform. After a first warning, you'll be given a pass, and the second warning, you'll be sent to the isolation room. I'd recommend you pause the video here so you can just check that everybody understands what's permitted for boys, girls, and what's not acceptable on the days that you have PE. If it's cold or raining, you should wear your normal coat. By that I mean the coat that you would wear over your normal school uniform. You cannot wear any jumpers, hoodies, or tracksuit tops. If you wear them to school, you must take them off and put them in your bag until you leave the school site. If you receive 2 warnings in a lesson, you'll be referred to the isolation room. When you arrive, you must sanitize your hands and keep a full 2 meters away from anybody else in this area. There's no changes to how things operate inside the isolation room. You will spend 5 full periods and break and lunch working through English, maths and science work. When you move to the isolation room, this is one of the only times that you can move across other year group bubbles, and you must arrive within 5 minutes, otherwise you risk being fixed term excluded. Since the beginning of this term, we've had some reports of antisocial and unkind behaviour, mainly on social media. To put it bluntly, this will not be tolerated at school. We've sent a letter in an email to all of your parents and carers. We've asked that they check your phone regularly to make sure that you're not saying, doing anything, or receiving information that is unkind, antisocial, or could be classed as bullying. If you do anything outside school that brings SBL's name into disrepute, the incident will be reported directly to the principal, and you will risk a very serious consequence. The school rule on mobile phones hasn't changed either. Mobile phones should be switched off and placed in bags at all times during the school day, from the moment that you cross the green gates in the morning to the moment that you are dismissed by your last teacher. If you cannot comply with these expectations, we will contact home and request that your phone is not brought to school. Or, if you do need to use it as a bus ticket, we will keep it and store it securely while you're in school. If we're made aware of any bullying, antisocial behaviour of any kind that happens outside of school, we will immediately pass the details of the incident to the local police team. If we're made aware of any bullying or antisocial behaviour that's happening online during your time in school, a consequence will be put in place, you will be monitored, and your phone will be stored in student services while you're at school. To put it simply again, bullying will not be tolerated at this school. If any of these issues happen to you, you must tell your tutor. You can tell them privately, or you can email them using your Gmail account. If you've got any screenshots or examples of what's been happening to you, send that through and they will work with the year team to make it stop. 2020 has been a really difficult and challenging year so far, so why would you do or say anything that would make it harder for yourself or anybody else? To put it simply, be nice. Let's move on to break and lunch times. Again, at the beginning and end of break, you need to wash and sanitize your hands and give each other some space. All the rules around school remain the same and in place this academic year. However, I'd like to be clear on a few additions to maintain social distancing. We'd like to request that you aim for groups of 8 friends, sitting or standing. You definitely cannot chase each other because this usually ends up in grabbing, which means that you're not social distancing. No physical contact at all. Even if it's putting your arm around somebody or giving them a hug, it just can't happen. No shouting or screaming. We need to keep the zones nice and calm. If you do any of these things, you'll be given a detention, and on the detention it will say chasing or grabbing or physical contact. After your first detention, the isolation room will send a text message to your parents or carers or whoever looks after you at home explaining what you've done and what rule has been broken. If you get a second detention in a term, your year team will phone home and explain it. After the third one, you'll be referred to the isolation room, where you will lose 5 periods and break and lunch. Your year team are here to help you. They can clarify or support you with any of the things that we've just talked through. They'll be on the gate in the morning as you come to school. You can talk to them there, or you can find them in your zone at break and lunchtime. Student services is closed at break and lunch, and during lessons you can only go to student services with a pass from a teacher, and when you get there you must maintain a full 2 meters social distancing from any other students. Thanks for listening and have a great week.